my opinion, when I'm asking questions, first of all, I want to ask, I don't want to just come up because what we're used to hearing, because it sets that fear in from that pyramid that we talked about earlier. What do you usually hear first? Out of a question they're asking you, why? Why did you do that? Right? So how you pose that question, what type of questions you're asking, and the tone you use can reverse the intent, correct? So understanding what types of questions, because those can be open or closed-ended and come off incorrectly, right? So we were asking the other day, we were doing a walkthrough, and somebody came up and asked a question, and it probably wasn't the right time because it was very crazy, chaotic. What kind of answer are you going to get? Probably something you don't want to hear, right?
Frustrated.
So again, so pick remember your tone, the type of question, how you phrase it, and what is the context of the situation you're coming into. Is it the proper time to be asking those questions? So it's just not asking an open or closed-ended questions. It's all that other commotion of other things you've got to consider when you're asking questions. Does that make sense?
I think too, Donna, it's important to be in the right mindset. I think a lot of it comes from when I am asking those questions, to your point, whether it's open-ended, closed, it's ensuring that I truly am coming from a place of curiosity, not of judgment. So I'm not asking you because I've already prejudged what I think happened and I don't like it, and because that, I think, leads to that tone of I'm asking you, but I don't really care how it happened because I'm upset about the fact that it happened. But truly being curious about a problem or an incident or whatever it is, I really want you to share with me so that I understand from your perspective whatever it is.
And I really, that's a great point, Tracy, because I really like when she comes up, and I heard her the other day say, she says, help me understand. Really help me understand. I'm not sure I understand that, forgive me, put it back on yourself, because I used to always, when I used to give feedback to students on their papers, I used to always put it on myself. Maybe I'm looking at this incorrectly, can you help me understand and clarify things for me on this paper that you turned in, or this situation that you documented down here. So I think putting it back on yourself and then asking your curiosity, that's a good point.
And the other thing is when I was just thinking about asking questions, is I think you need to start off with kind of the context, because I've been asked questions before and I was like, I don't know where you're coming from. Like, I don't know what you're trying to ask me. You ask me a question and I'm like, what are you trying to get to? So it helps if you put a little context around it. Maybe I'm just dense and that's part of the problem, but it's like, you gotta talk to me more. You gotta tell me more, because I don't know what you're trying to say. So.
And to your point, I think another point on that is if you're asking questions, I think you have to be prepared to provide some feedback right away on those questions, the proper feedback about those questions.
Thanks, because I needed to know this because.
Right, okay, so that feedback, and I'm gonna skip over using intuition right now, but if you're asking the questions and you're trying to provide feedback, what do we have to think about on that feedback as well? If you're truly a leader providing feedback to your staff or to your team members,
Constructive.
constructive, what else? There's some key factors here about giving feedback. It's constructive, honest, supportive,
Make sure it's accurate feedback.
accurate, it's not hearsay, very good, specific. So there's all those other things you have to consider. Now, let's think about me as a leader, and I'm receiving feedback from my staff, and I think that's one of the examples Tracy and I put up there. How do I, as a leader, receive feedback? What's a proper way to receive feedback from a staff member, a team member?
I appreciate your feedback and your perception.
And,
Well, you gotta be a good, thank you, absolutely.
Thank you.
right, there you go.
You gotta be a good listener and, their perception, of you is their reality. Whether it's you're on or whether it's accurate or not, that's their perception and that's the reality. So if it's not correct, then to me it always said, then I need to do something to change that perception, because, like for example, people will come past my door, this was long ago, we come past my door and automatically, when they come to the pharmacy, I automatically look up, and mostly it was to make sure there was not a mask gun coming in. And so I just always would look up. Well, I never would say, hey, or hello, or smile, or anything, and so in their mind, they thought I was always mad, because I just would look up and look back down again. So then it was every time somebody came, through, I'd be like, hey, and at least they were No, but it told me that, and I was like, that's not, I don't know, I'm not mad, I just was making sure you didn't have a gun on you. It's the pharmacy world that we live in.
Making sure you should be covered.
Yeah, they like to
So,
come.
and they're all good valid points, but when I think of providing that feedback, providing the feedback and receiving feedback goes two ways. But taking action on that feedback is gonna be key, because if someone tells you something about yourself as a leader, not only accepting and thanking them for it, but then really taking action on it, right? Or not leaving the room and saying, yeah, whatever,
Right.
you know? That's just their opinion.
Yeah.
They don't matter.
You're right,
So
yeah.
that's one thing. Now, when I go back, let's slip back over to using intuition. So in your mind, what is that skill? If I'm a coach, I'm a leader, and I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna coach my staff, how do I use my intuition in situations?
Knowing when the time is right to actually do that coaching.
Right. Have, just like we talked about with the feedback and the actually asking questions. Exactly, thank you. Okay, what else?
Knowing how employees are gonna receive the message. I may receive something, you may say one thing, but Lauren and I hear two different things because of how we receive things.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
I think it's trusting the employee and giving them intuition. You know, an employee makes a judgment call. And I'll give you an example. This happened like 2 weeks ago. One of my seasoned MRI techs said, okay, policy says we should be scanning this, but there's something not right about this. I said, then stop it right there. And when he did keep digging, he finally found out that while the implant this person had was okay to scan with it in, the wire that they used for that was not. You would have burned the employee's spinal cord, or the patient's spinal cord. And it was like, I said, stop it right there. I said, he goes, but everybody says do it. I said, no, trust your intuition. So
Yeah,
you
very good.
gotta trust the employee that, you know what, he's got 20 some odd years of experience. He's been there. He's been in those trenches. He knows that. And it's like, no, he knows something's not right. I'm not sure what it is. I'm gonna let him dig a little more before we continue.
That's excellent. Yeah.
And so the doctor's yelling at him, why didn't you do this, whatever. Stop right there, no. And I'm glad we didn't do it. But the doctor, you know, there's a doctor on the floor just yelling at him.
Right.
It's like, wait a minute, time out here.
Excellent.
And
Great.
so you gotta use your intuition on, okay, my employees tell me something and they're pretty passionate about this. Something's not right.
Yeah, you have to trust your gut feeling on those kind of things. That's a great example. You know, I was thinking too, if we're going to be coaching our staff and really living our vision and really living our 7 systems and operating through that, you know, working daily through that operating model, and I think about letting my people develop and creating that environment of trust, I want to challenge my staff, right? Using that intuition, knowing who in my staff really needs to be challenged, is at that point in their, you know, at their time that, oh boy, I really need to work with that individual, put them somewhere where they're really gonna, you know, soar, spread their wings. That's that intuition. You've got to be able to walk around and say, okay, they know what they're doing, they need to work on this, or I need to move this person over here, they're really good in this area. Not taking that leader or that staff and say, we're gonna make you a leader and then leave them go after you make them a leader and ignore them, right? You're really developing those people and having that intuition that that's where they're gonna soar. Put them in the right place.
I use that like in mentoring team leaders and like reading the room, and you know, you're doing one meeting, your first team meeting is gonna look different than your second team meeting with the same content, and how you're actively coaching that team through a new process is gonna develop by how you're reading the room.
Sure.
Like you're gonna focus on more of one thing than the other, depending on who's there, what they're saying, and what your feedback is. You have to listen to your gut on which direction you take, as well as really reading people and knowing, you know, trust your intuition when you're gonna have this conversation with somebody. Do you need somebody else in the room? Do we need to practice it? Are you gonna do it at the beginning of their shift, at the end of their shift? Are you gonna ask them to come in from home? What's your gut tell you
Right.
that how the rest of the team is gonna respond when this happens? So kind of having that foresight to really think about your actions before you do the coach.
Exactly. And that's a good point you bring up, because if I'm thinking about this, the more we built that rapport with that staff, we're gonna be able to use our intuition more, because we're gonna know more about that staff member to say, something's wrong, they're not themselves today. I need to take time to spend some quality time with that individual, make sure everything's okay, right?
Yep.
So the more rapport we have built up with our staff, will really support us in giving that ability to do all those things. Now, when I'm actively listening to the group, what am I doing? Eye contact. What else?
You're present.
Okay. How else?
Smiling, taking
Smiling.
notes. You can actually do
Taking
visual
notes.
management, write things up on Post-its.
Okay. So you're talking to me. We're talking and I'm doing this. Is that gonna bother some people?
I normally say, I love your ideas.
Thank you.
I'm gonna write some of them down so I can keep them at front of mind. I always tell them when I'm writing, but they're not like, should I take notes?
Yeah. Especially when you go into HR, right? They're always taking notes. Does it make people feel comfortable? No, but the
No.
HR person can tell them, I'm gonna make sure I copy this down correctly, because if I'm gonna take this action on for you, I wanna make sure I have all the facts and details. That's great, because I've seen too many people do that, and we, as the receiver, we don't understand whether or not they're truly listening to us, or if they're capturing what we're saying. Now, if that person is, after they get done writing as well, comes back and say, well, let me make sure I've captured everything we talked about, and then they read back, then you know. What's that telling them?
You were listening.
You
You're-
were.
And it's important that you're.
I always have to say it when I'm in a meeting where I'm taking notes on my phone, because people think you're just texting or checking emails.
Lauren's
I'll
on
always be
Facebook
like,
while I'm trying to talk to
right.
her.
I'm like, I'm writing notes in the notes section so we can, and then I can email it to myself. I think that's big, that people understand that that's really.
Right. Now, we've talked a lot about these skills and what we do, but one of the things we haven't talked about a lot is when we're coaching, what is the thing, the last step a lot of people fail to do when it comes to coaching?
Teach back or just
Circle back
questions.
around.
Circle back around, follow up. Do we sometimes get so wrapped up in our own business we forget? Sometimes, oh my God, it's been a week, I forgot to get back, right? So what do? Sometimes, the only way I could do it is put it on my phone as a reminder in my calendar. Circle back in 12 hours, or circle back, I told them I'd talk to them next week, make sure I put it in my calendar. Because we are so busy, right? It's part of that leader standard work that we're gonna talk about later. Making sure that you set those appointments up and follow back up and tell them, this has been great, I am so happy, Lauren, that we got to talk about this and you gave me some really good feedback. I'd love to circle back with you and talk to you about this and see how things are going, since we've, so get a chance to work through it. Set a time. Let's do this. Let's set up a schedule and meet again. That way they know that you're truly into this 100%. Any other comments or questions or additional? Okay. Good stuff, right?
I think when you're teaching this though too, though, for like the actively listening to the, to everybody is body language. I think that's a big one.
Right.
I think you need to even say that as part of actively listening is body language.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to do when I was doing this.
If somebody comes to me and I start rolling my eyes and everything, I think, oh, okay, they're thinking I'm, crabbing or whatever, so.
That's a good point, Mickey, because last time we taught this, I went over and I walked over and I said, boy, it's really good to see you, Lauren. What's been going on? It's like, oh yeah, it really looked like I was happy to see her, right? What's that language you're giving her? Or what's this showing? Are you really interested? We're gonna show a video clip in a second. I wanna see if you can pick out something.
Well, that's what I said. When it was cold, so I was like, okay, I'm just telling you, I'm crossing my arms because I'm freezing.
Sorry,
It's
I
not
already,
because I'm dead.
I already turned you guys off. No, I'm just kidding.
I
Okay.
was like, I'm just cold.
So good stuff. We're gonna move on, and we're gonna do a little bit of a role play. You guys have given us some really good input as to what those skills look like. What we're gonna do now is we're actually gonna put you in teams. Let's see, we've got
So we have 4 scenarios.
4 scenarios.
Everybody's on board for this one.
So we've got, because there's 3 people, there's 3 roles in each. So what I'm gonna do is count off by 3s.
Do we have 4 scenarios or 3?
Should we use our, yeah, we'll do 4
We
scenarios.
could do the same groups we already did, right? Could we just use the same ones like we were ones? Right?
Yeah, let's do that.
Fours.
1s, 2s, and 3. Yeah, we'll do that. 3, 4 groups for that last 4. So let's do that. That's the easiest. I keep forgetting I've got all these extra people in that. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna show you the. Now that I remember they're in here, we edited this so many times. So what we'd like you to do is, there's different roles in here. You might be a team lead, you can make yourself a director, you can make whoever you want. So 2 of the roles are gonna be the 2 people role playing. So if it's, you decide who that is.
Leader and
A leader, it could be a director, it could be the president, it could be, 2 coworkers, I don't care. And then review your coaching scenario, because there is gonna be 1 observer, okay? And then the team member and team lead, whatever that role is, will play there, and the observer's gonna document what they see, hear, and feel during that whole scenario. And then we're gonna actually share some examples. So here's the role or the observer form that each observer will have, and they're going to actually highlight, did they see anybody, did they experience anybody doing servant leadership? Extreme ownership is something like, I own it. Whatever, I don't care what my team is doing, whatever happens, it's my responsibility. So that's an example of extreme ownership. Growth mindset, are they thinking, growth mindset, or are they closed off? We'll talk about that next, and Dawn, we have to edit that. And then effective leadership traits. Did you see any key effective leadership traits that you might want to document? And then which effective coaching skills were applied? Give us any examples that you heard that were really good. And then one thing the leader did really well and that you liked, and even better if, an opportunity, it might have been gone better if this happened. So those are what the observer is going to fill out. We're going to give you 5 minutes to get together as a group, decide who's going to be whom, and then practice that role play. And then we're going to actually do it in front of the group. We're going to have each of you role play for 2 minutes in front of the group. Okay? So get in your groups, and I'll hand out your packets.
I would not want to be on Tracy's team. She's gonna be hard.
What's wrong?
So you're gonna be hard one.
Who?
You.
You. Hard racing?
Yeah.
Oh.